I'm going to explain very simply how to use all of these and how these can help your songs sound much better. Hello, my name is ChillPanic. I've been producing human music for the last 13 years, and I now use that knowledge to teach you how to use Suno AI like a real deal music producer. So first, let's get something generated just so we can affect it. And I'm going to just go to the Suno GPT by ChillPanic, free to try it, sunogpt.ai. And I'm just going to say female choir. And I have this switched to studio mode so that we can copy and paste this into studio and paste it right here, and it's just going to give us something that's a little more descriptive, and we are going to generate it. That works for me. But before we add effects to this, I'm actually going to right click this track and click remove effects just to get rid of all that reverb, all the echo, everything, so that we can do everything from scratch. I'm going to go to the bottom where it says add track effects, and let's start with the compressor. So a really easy way to think about a compressor, all it does is take the loudest point of the audio and the lowest point of the audio, and it tries to put them at around the same point, so it stays at like a steady volume. That's the main thing it's used for. You can use it for a lot of other things, but that's the main thing, is just keeping a consistent volume. So the first knob is threshold, and you can see that represented by this horizontal line right here, and that is going to be at the point where the compressor starts to do its job. So basically the compressor at that certain threshold, it will limit the volume from going above that, so that way if something is above that volume, we can bring it down to be the same volume as something that was quieter than it, and then we can use the gain to make both of them louder afterwards so that they're the same volume. We can see this in action with this part because this first part is quieter than the second part. So if we use the compressor, it will make both of these the same volume. But you can hear it sounds very compressed. So there's a bunch of different techniques, and you can change the way that you do it to give different effects. And one of those things is the next knob, which is ratio, which you can see by that horizontal line, which can go all the way to vertical. But this is basically going to determine how strict the compressor is. So if we have it set all the way to 64, this is basically a limiter. That threshold is like a brick wall. Nothing is getting past it. That is like the set volume. But the lower this ratio number is, the less strict the compressor is with the volume, which can be helpful if you don't want to have that like compressed sound, but you want to have some of the effect with the compressor. Kind of over time you learn it by ear. And next we have the knee. If I do this, you can see it changing, and this is basically how smooth or abrupt the compression process is. All the way to the left is a hard knee. It's like immediately the volume is cut. All the way to the right is a soft knee, and that just means it does it less abruptly and makes it a little bit more smooth. And next we have attack and release. Like, let's say you have a loud sound that goes above your threshold. The attack is going to determine how quickly the compressor reacts to that. Release is how quickly the compressor's effects wear off. So you can really play with the sound with this, because if you have like a slower attack and a faster release, that can make your drum sound more snappy and like in your face. But if you had attack all the way to 0 and release all the way up, then it would be very squashed. So let's actually play this part so you can hear that. Okay, so this is attack at 0, release all the way to 5,000 milliseconds. And now this is the attack up and the release down. Now let's look at the next effect, which is the convolution reverb. A convolution reverb is sort of like a regular reverb, except it takes the characteristics of a space. And they do this by playing a short clip of white noise in some space. So for instance, you could go into a church and play the short clip of white noise and get that echo of the church. So you get the sound of the church. And then because you use the white noise, that covers the entire frequency spectrum. And now you can apply that to different sounds. So we can click on this drop-down menu and we can choose different places. They don't have a lot. Let's listen to Amber Hall. And the mix knob is just going to be how much of an effect this has. So if you have it all the way at 0%, no effect at all. At 100%, it's only the effect without the dry signal. To the right, we have gain. That's just going to control the volume of the effect. And then we have predelay, which is basically going to be how long it takes for the effect to take place. Very similar to like the attack in a compressor. So if we turn the predelay all the way up, you can hear the dry signal for a second before the reverb comes in. It almost gives it like a delay or echo effect. And last but not least, we have the width knob. So it's going to determine how wide the sound sounds. I'll just demonstrate that by turning the mix all the way up, and we'll do width all the way up so you can hear what that sounds like. And we'll turn it all the way down. So when it's all the way down, it's a completely mono signal. It's only in the center. Whenever it's wide, it's spread across the stereo spectrum, the stereo field, whatever. All right, and next up we got delay. This is what's commonly known as like an echo effect. And you can choose between time or tempo. I'm basically always going to use tempo, but using time can also give some cool effects. The only difference is that with tempo, it's synced to the BPM. For instance, if we turn this to like 2 beats, and I'll turn up the mix so you can hear it more. And you can hear it's like on beat, so that can give some really cool effects. So if you leave it on tempo, you can go to 1, 1.25, 133, 1.5, all those different steps or beats so that it'll be BPM synced. But if you're on time, it works in milliseconds, which I basically only use if I'm going for an effect like this. So you can get like some weird effects by doing stuff like that. But we're gonna stick with tempo for now. So the feedback determines how many times the echoes are gonna happen, like how many echoes there are gonna be. For instance, if we have this all the way to 0, sounds like there was like 1 or 2, but if we have it to 100, it just keeps going for infinity. And then the mix knob is the same exact thing as with the convolution reverb. 0, there's no effect. 100 is only the effect. And with this delay, you have a low cut and a high cut. This is basically an EQ. So the low cut is used to cut out the lows, and the high cut is used to cut out the highs. Whatever number of hertz below this knob that it shows is where the low cut is going to happen. Let's go all the way up to 2000 hertz. And that's only going to affect the delay, not the dry signal. And I'll actually turn the mix up all the way so you can hear it. And this can come in handy if you want the delay to be like more in the background. You can also do the same thing with the high cut, bring that down some. Next up, we got distortion. So this can be really good for basses or drums, sometimes vocals too. It sounds like this. I mean, you can get like really crazy with it. And here's the mix knob, the same thing as the other ones. 0 is no effect, 100 is the effect. And they have an output gain right here, which can be really beneficial because it's gonna get pretty loud with the distortion. So one thing that's fun to do for me is like turning the drive up, which is the amount of distortion, and then turning the output gain down. Because then you can get like some really crazy effects, especially if you can combine the convolution reverb with it too. And they've also got a cutoff, which is basically a high cut filter. And honestly, I don't even know what tilt and bias do. I mean, like I just be fucking around with distortion, you know, just trying out different things. So. But they have a bunch of different modes: soft, hard, fold, asymmetrical, sine, distortion, and crush. So that can be a fun one to play around with. And next we've got EQ. And this is basically the same thing as the EQ that I've shown in the past, but just a quick rundown. The horizontal axis is frequency and the vertical axis is volume. So on the left side is going to be more like your bassy frequencies. And on the right side is going to be more like your treble frequencies, like your S's and your T's and like the presence. And each one of these little circles are called bands. And with these bands, you could change them into a different filter type. For example, if we go to this one, this is a high pass, which just means that it's going to let the high frequencies pass. So a high pass and a low cut are basically the same thing. So I'll play this so you can hear what that sounds like. Alternatively, you can do a low pass, which is the opposite of a high pass. You're just getting rid of the higher frequencies. That's what's commonly referred to as the underwater effect. The next filter type is called a low shelf. So this is better whenever you want to make like slight adjustments to stuff. Like you want a high pass whenever you're trying to get rid of frequencies entirely, but shelves are good for whenever you just want to boost or cut them a little bit over a broad frequency range. And the same thing for a high shelf filter. It does the same exact thing except for the high end instead of the low end. And you can even change this Q to determine how soft or hard that curve is. So if you just want to slightly boost something, you could do something like that by turning the Q to the left some. Or you can get pretty crazy with it. And this is what's called a peaking filter. This is more if you just want to get rid of a very specific frequency. Yeah, let's say we just don't like that one right there. And you can use this Q again to get more surgical with it. Let's just go for here. And next we have a notch filter, which is basically the peaking filter, except it's only for taking out frequencies. I basically never use a notch, but you know, it's there. All right, and now we have a gate or a noise gate. These are really cute. And this is basically the opposite of a compressor, almost. It's for when you have moments that are really quiet, but maybe you got like some mouth movement or something like that, and you just want it to go to complete silence. The threshold will actually set to where the silence will start. So if I have this all the way up, it's just going to be completely silent. Well, you could hear it a little bit. That's because the floor wasn't set. If you have the floor all the way down as low as it'll go, then it'll be completely silent. Or if you don't want it to go all the way down, you can have it where just at that point of the threshold, the volume will get brought down to wherever the floor is set. Let's say from here to here, we want to make sure that we don't hear anything in this in-between spot. So we can set the threshold by looking at this graph. Now, in all of those in-between spots, we have complete silence. And next up, we have a limiter, which is basically a compressor on crack. It is a brick wall. The volume is never going above the threshold, ever. So this first knob is called Look Ahead, and it's basically a security guard with a crystal ball. Because basically what it is doing is it's blocking the sound from getting louder, but it has a little crystal ball, so it can see a few seconds in the future when a loud sound is coming in. And turning this up a bit can help prevent things like clipping. And can just make it sound a little bit smoother. And the next knob is pre-gain. So that's going to be how loud the audio coming in is before it hits the limiter. So if we turn this up, it's going to push it into the limiter harder, but it's never going to go above 0 dB. And the attack and release are the same exact things we talked about with the compressor. And you can right click any one of these knobs and ask. I did not know that. Okay, that's pretty cool. So link controls stereo linking in the limiter. At 0, the left and right channels respond independently. As you raise it towards 1, gain reduction is increasingly shared, so both channels stay more balanced and the stereo image shifts less. So basically, if you want to have a stable stereo image, you have this up all the way. If you want to be more meticulous about how you're shaping the stereo image, you would have this lower. Now we have a reverb, which will take a sound like this and turn it into a sound like this. It's basically the same thing as convolution reverb, but without the convolution. So we have our low cut and our high cut, just like we had on the delay. And this knob is the decay time. So this is in seconds. So if you have it at like 20 seconds, that means that's how long the reverb is going to go on for. And you can get some really cool effects just by doing that. So damping is going to control how long higher frequencies stay in the reverb tail. So for instance, if we have it all the way up like this, you can hear like the higher frequencies in the actual reverb are almost gone. If we have it all the way down, we've got all of them. And you can also create your own plugins, but we'll talk a little bit about that later after I explore that some more. Here's one that I made on a live stream, which is just an auto pan. If there's anything else you'd like to know about Suno AI, let me know down